Let's start, however, with South Sudan. That country's central bank has asked foreign commercial banks operating in its territory to pay $30 million in share capital. That's twice the initial minimum requirement. Domestic ones, however, have to hold $15 million. According to the bank's governor, Cornelio Corrion Mayik, the move is aimed at enabling commercial banks to avoid irregularities noted in the supply of hard currency allocated by the central bank. Now, of course, the bank has been restricting hard currency access for a couple of years now to basic needs like health, food items and education, as it struggles with irregularity in the proceeds from oil, which used to be the main source of funds and hard foreign earnings. Now, the governor said some banks are using hard currency for purposes that, in the bank's view, are not critical to the Sudanese economy. As we have pointed out earlier in the bulletin, the meeting of G20 leaders in St. Petersburg in Russia is now in its final day. Between them, emerging economies in African states have two key concerns on the agenda: curbing tax evasion and avoidance and limiting the turbulence their currencies and by extension their economies will face as the United States slows down its quantitative easing program. CCTV's Noel Makugu has a summary of the key issues.
Shortly after the Fed started its quantitative easing program in 2008, emerging economies' currencies appreciated in response as a flood of yield chasing liquidity in their shores. Today, with the growth of emerging economies plateauing and the same capital sprinting back to the West, emerging economies are slamming the Fed for lack of transparency in its plans to wind down quantitative easing program. So far this year, South Africa's rand has slid over 18% to the American dollar. In the short term, the rand's weakness may boost exports, but more long-term solutions are needed. Partly as a hedge, the country will contribute $5 billion to the Contingency Reserve Arrangement, a BRICS nation initiative to create a $100 billion pool of funds to provide a buffer to their respective currencies in the event of international volatility. Leaders of the BRICS expect tangible results by their next meeting. A more pressing concern, however, lies in the twin problem of tax evasion and avoidance, especially in the commodities sector. The African Progress Panel, chaired by the former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, put forward a 3-point action plan this week, demanding action to end transfer mispricing, which saw over $30 billion move out of the continent every year between 2008 and 2010. The panel also demands that the G20 makes the data on company ownership more transparent, partly in order to end the use of shell companies to pack illicit gains from the continent. While the OECD says a legal framework is needed to govern how data is shared automatically and how privacy safeguards will be maintained, most African states have a problem with access. Out of the 56 signatories of the Multilateral Convention on Mutual Administrative Assistance in Tax Matters, just 5 are in Africa. The journey then to resolve these twin problems of tax evasion and avoidance has only just begun. Noel Makugu, CCTV.
Also, the Kenyan scientist Dr. Charity Kawira Mutegi is the latest recipient of the 2013 Norman Borlaug Award for field research and application for her breakthrough in dealing with the contaminant aflatoxin, which killed 124 people in Kenya in 2004. She was recognized at the Agra Forum, which closes in Mozambique on Friday. CCTV's Angelo Coppola was there.
Dr. Charity Mutege was recognized for her breakthroughs in identifying contamination that killed 125 people in eastern Kenya in 2004. This announcement was made on the sidelines of the African Green Revolution Forum in Maputo last night and identifies and underscores the value that women play in the agriculture value food chain. We also spoke to Maria Andrade from CIP, who with her team introduced orange-faced sweet potatoes into Mozambique. Her and her team are currently working on developing a drought-resistant sweet potato that will go a long way to reducing the malnutrition that is evident in Africa. I'm Angelo Coppola for CCTV in Maputo, Mozambique.
Now, still on matters agriculture, a delegation of researchers from across East Africa are in Kenya to share their experiences on the marketing of high-value indigenous African vegetables. The project is being managed by the Association for Strengthening Agricultural Research in Eastern and Central Africa, better known by the acronym ASARECA, and it is, of course, part of broader efforts to strengthen data sharing on food security. With the details, here's CCTV's Peter Akaba.
It's early morning and a glance at Danson Maura's stall at the City Park Market in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, reveals a stall that looks no different from all the others around it. But there is a difference here. His stall specializes in indigenous African vegetables, and his stock has just run out for the day. Rather early, you might say. In short, business has been good.
Biashara ni mzuri sababu
business is really good. This business fulfills my financial needs. Demand is very high. Like now, my supply has run out.
Danson gets his stock from a nearby farm on the outskirts of Nairobi. Farmers in the area have been quick to switch after noticing an uptick in demand.
In the past, we grew items that relied on international or weak local markets. With these vegetables, local demand is very high. Sometimes we can't even meet demand.
John is one of many farmers across Kenya and the East Africa region who are making it big in vegetable farming. In Kenya, for example, research shows that indigenous vegetables now account for 30% of all vegetables sold. Kenyan farmers are earning an average of $4,500 per annum from indigenous vegetable seed production. One exceptional farmer earned up to $17,000 in 2010. It is this success in Kenya that has other countries in the region keen to learn.
One of the major problems the region is fighting is food insecurity and poverty. And this vegetable or this project supported by Asareka is aimed at trying to improve the food security of the people and also the incomes.
A delegation comprising Ugandan, Rwandese and Burundian researchers has visited Kenya to learn the value chain model from seed propagation and sales, proper farming to marketing of the vegetables in order to enhance production and nutrition in their home countries.
I am trying to learn about how they get seeds, how they make business with these indigenous vegetables.
While demand for the produce has been quite high, the potential to meet the growing demand for these vegetables in the region is still limited by lack of good quality seed, a challenge that the current project seeks to meet. In the past, member countries of the East Africa community have had a major focus on political and economic integration, thus maybe neglecting the issue of food security. But with programs such as this now in place, the issue of food security may just start to become a priority. Peter Kabasisi TV in Kabete in central Kenya.
Right, quick run through the numbers now from the markets that we do track here for you in Africa Live. Starting in Nigeria, the all-share index up by well over 2/3 in early morning trade. The all-share index in South Africa, however, operating in a completely different tack, down by about 1/3. The 20-share index in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, posting its third straight day of gains, according to analysts at Genghis Capital. Of course, that's primarily attributable to a bit of confidence boost coming in from the decision to hold rates by the central bank earlier in the week. The market there was higher by 0.3 percentage points. And of course, in Egypt, today being a Friday, the EGX 30 isn't trading. That market is closed. On to the sports now. Here's what's coming up.